how did it feel when you finally qualified?
Honestly, quite disappointing. I thought I'd feel much happier than I actually did, but I think it had been such a long time coming and I'd met so many barriers trying to claw my way up to qualification that when I got there, it just didn't have the oomph that I thought it was going to. Hi, I'm Charlie Murray and I am a mum and senior risk lawyer at Friths, but getting to this point hasn't been a straightforward journey.
What inspired you to pursue a career in law?
We knew a judge within the family, not me personally, but my uncle, and he said, why don't you just come up one day and sit within the court and watch a case? I remember thinking, this poor person that was going through this case and this barrister that was defending them, and I thought, this is a really nice thing to be able to do for people if you can actually do it. When I looked into the solicitor route, obviously it wasn't going to be standing up in a court, but I thought I can still help people here, I can still do something that actually is, helping people through life with things they've got problems with. I went to Greenwich University, so ex-Polytechnic. I was basically told, along with everyone else in that, lecture theatre, that, probably only 10% of us would ever go on to work in law if we were lucky. And I thought, OK, I'm going to fund myself through law school. So that's what I actually did next, whilst I was working full-time again. I couldn't get a training contract. It was so difficult. Nothing was really coming up, and it was really sad actually. The firms that I was working for, the partners were always on my side, like, we're going to get your training contract here, but I always fell down on the tick boxes behind the scenes in the recruitment process, so I didn't go to the right university or have the right A-levels, and it's so disheartening, like, over and over, especially when, the people you're working for that can see how you're working and want you to go up and work for them and qualify, and you just don't quite get there.
How did you end up working as a wedding photographer?
At the time when I started the wedding photography, I was actually doing a master's in law as well and working full-time, so it was quite busy. So I would work 5 days a week, go and study in the evenings after work, and then at the weekends do the wedding photography. So it was so stark in contrast to what I was working in property law at the time. It was a paralegal. So stark in contrast to my day job that I just thought, I can't really give this up, and it just snowballed, and I ended up doing weddings abroad, and I actually ended up doing it for 10 years overall, and ended on the note of being published in Vogue, so it was a lovely way to end. In the end, I came to a head where I qualified finally, got pregnant with my daughter, and COVID struck, and something had to give.
What inspired your move from property into risk and compliance?
I worked briefly in risk and compliance for a US startup in London about probably 5 years before COVID hit, and really just loved the risk and compliance side, but it was just temporary whilst we were starting up, and then I was back into commercial property. And I thought, OK, I'm going to look into this. Is this something that actually would bring me more joy within the legal field? And I actually handed in my notice at work in I think it was August of 2020, and didn't have a job to go to at all, and was due back to working around the May time the next year. So I did, I was terrified, to say the least. And I got my first job at Herbert Smith, coming back from maternity leave, not as a solicitor, but within the risk team, and then went from there, really. I started at the bottom of the food chain again in terms of my experience, and that was quite difficult.
What do you enjoy most about working in risk and compliance?
I love the fact that every day is so different. I honestly don't have a repeated day, ever. Nothing is ever straightforward. And of course, the queries always sit on the grey areas of the codes, etc. So having to sit there and really think creatively about ways to, can this work? If it can work, how can we make it work and still be compliant? That, for me, that just brings in what I really was loving from the photography side into the risk and compliance world.
What's been the hardest part of your professional journey?
The toughest journey has been motherhood. I don't think anyone can really prepare you for it. There's always a challenge of some sort. You think you have a lovely few weeks and then something else happens. You're like, oh, how do I get through this? Like, how do I navigate this next little hurdle? And I'm sure that will be the rest of my life now as she grows up. But I think in terms of the working world, yeah, it's been tough. It's made me realise that, for me, I don't have a support network around me. People talk about having a village around you. I don't have that. So there's no one to help out with childcare, etc. So if I didn't have the flexibility of working from home, how would I get her from school? The after-school clubs finish really early, and all these little things that you just don't just doesn't even really come into the, when you're thinking about having a child, you just don't, you're not there. You're just thinking, oh, I'm going to have a little baby, and that's as far as your thought process goes. She'll say to me, oh, Mummy, don't go to work. I don't want to go to school. I'm like, okay, but my mummy has to go to work. And then I'm like, well, Mummy really enjoys working, actually. And I sit there and I think, right now, she doesn't understand, but one day she's going to look and she's going to comprehend, how tough it was, how tough the journey was. And I hope that it, even if she doesn't come into a professional world, that it gives her that same determination just to go and do whatever she wants to do in life.